Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 93 of 901 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie
Hey guys.
and EJ.
Hey.
Today, we're going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 12 of 901 Lone Star titled Swipe Left. I loved this episode personally, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, same.
Me too.
So, and we certainly have a lot to talk about, so we're going to get into it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it opens up with the best, Carlos!
Woohoo!
Exactly. I was so happy it started with them because I was just like, I don't know. I wasn't expecting really anything. I know they did drop sneak peeks, but like I wasn't really expecting much.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they start with Carlos interviewing the candidates that are gonna supposedly officiate their wedding, and it was interesting for sure. So like they get the coffee and tea ready or whatever, and TK is freaking out because he's freaking out like, are these pretzel sticks vegan? And like totally freaking out, and Carlos is just like, this is supposed to be fun, like, okay. And so we meet the rabbi, apparently a woman pastor, then we meet priestess, a reverend. We meet all these people.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was quite a
They
few.
were they were interesting to say the least. I liked Pastor Nicole best. That was my personal pick if I was gonna pick out of these people.
Yeah,
I liked the rabbi too. Like up until
I agree.
I liked him, but like my personal thought is like I didn't really think that, like, when I pictured their wedding, I didn't really think they were gonna have somebody officiate it. Like I didn't think they were gonna put religion in their wedding because they just don't seem like religious people.
I was wondering how they mesh it, seeing as they're from two different religions.
Right.
So like having
That
an
too.
wedding. I was wondering how they were going to do it. I love that they were entertaining like multiple options, and that both of them were seemingly okay with having any and all religions officiate or no religion. They're just like, well, look at their shit. So like I liked Pastor Nicole and I liked the rabbi.
Yeah, same here. I was fine. I'm totally supportive of the rabbi until he's like, okay. He's like, gotta get you signed up for conversion classes. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
That was the one thing I was like,
I didn't like that because like I personally don't think that everyone, like, I don't think when you marry somebody that you have to be the same religion.
Agreed.
And stuff. Like I just don't, and I wasn't like, I was raised as like Catholic, but my dad's not Catholic, so like that's the thing.
Some people take it far more seriously than others, and clearly they don't take it serious. Like they don't entertain it here at all. So
right. And I mean, I'm all for like wanting to be on the same page as the other person. I think what got me is like, I don't think Carlos and TK are super religious to where
agreed.
One religion is going to take over their life or like really be a big in their life to where, but I think because TK is Jewish and you know possibly having a Jewish rabbi there, and I know many people, not personally, but I've seen it where there's one's a Catholic and one's a Jewish person, and they decide to have both a rabbi and a Catholic priest there.
Oh yeah, I've seen that
doing
too in
like
shows.
Yeah, where they've shared. So I feel like there's ways they could do that with just having telling the pastor, like, look, we want to have this Jewish ceremony, but we're not going to become members of your church just because we're doing this.
Right. Yeah. I think they will have elements of like, I guess the cultural part of it in the wedding, but I don't necessarily like, they're definitely not going to have like a quote unquote like churchy thing at the wedding. Like I just don't see that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think both of them have like religion plays some sort of part in their lives, but not saying they're fully like religious. But I also think as well as a cultural thing. Like I feel like for TK it's also that he's culturally Jewish. And also religion, especially Catholicism, is deeply ingrained in like the Hispanic and Latino communities. So I think for them it's like them just entertaining like the two parts of their life that are going to be really intertwined. So like I'm all for, like, if I remember correctly, Ronan isn't even necessarily religiously Jewish, but he's very culturally Jewish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he celebrates some Jewish holidays, but he's I but we don't know what he does in his personal life that he doesn't share. But he does celebrate Passover and some of the other Jewish holidays.
Yeah.
But and for TK and Carlos, I mean, I can see them having the ceremonial huppah at it's the little tent that you get married under, because that's to symbolize your first home together. And I can see them breaking the cup, and TK wearing something similar to what Ronan wore for his wedding, the ceremonial robe and
for sure.
ketubah. Those are pretty traditional, regardless of whether or not you have a Jewish ceremony or not.
Right.
And I think Carlos, along those lines, will have similar things in his. I don't know as much about Catholicism and those kind of traditions as I do Jewish and Christian. But
despite having taken part in the Catholic wedding, because my dad and my stepmom are Catholic, I know nothing about the elements. I just know I was in there as a bride.
I was raised that, but I literally could tell you literally nothing.
Also, it's really funny because you said first home together, and I went, no, it's not. R.I.P. Carlos's apartment.
I know, right?
I was
or townhouse or whatever it was.
Yeah, my brain did go there too. So
anyways,
moving on. And rant. So but this is interesting because at some point the Reverend had said like something along the lines of, you boys will be joined together for eternity, especially in hell. And this is when I was just like, what the hell? Like, I was expecting something like that to come up. And it was funny because somebody commented on this scene and they were like, actually the Reverend that Reverend was like, in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he married Captain Holt and his husband. I'm like, that's funny. That's hilarious. I'm like, that's kind of funny. So I was like, I was like, okay. But then I love TK like in that moment being like, wow, thanks for the heads up, Tom. And their faces were like, what the hell? And honestly, same. Then like, the rabbis.
It's like, of course something like this is gonna happen because it's Texas, but also like it's the world, but like
damn. And then conversion comes up, of course, and I'm just like, okay. And then like Pastor Nicole was bringing up like the difficult conversations, and TK's like, oh, we've had all of those. And she's like, oh, so what about kids? And TK's like, can't wait to have them. And Carlos is like, we're not having them. And
I was like, oh no.
Yeah, basically this is the one they dropped before the episode, and everyone's like freaking out. Everyone was going off the deep end, like, oh my god, they're gonna break up. I'm like, guys, can you like get some common sense? Like, that's
some grass.
Like, have you guys not watched the last 4 seasons and how much growth they've had?
Also, like, that I was like,
a debate about kids.
I was like that, but also like that's just like they're not gonna break up over one little conversation. Some people are like, well, why haven't they had this conversation? And
listen, I'm glad they talked about that. I'm glad they didn't just pretend, oh, it's totally normal to have not had a conversation like this in 3 years. They actually addressed the fact they hadn't had the conversation, and I'm really impressed with them for finally doing that.
Right. Like, I kind of understand why it didn't come up prior, but I'm also like, it could have. Okay, people are like, oh, well, this could have come up. I'm like, last season for sure, but no earlier than that. That it could have totally come up last season, but no.
And they do have a point in that they've kind of been a little busy.
Yeah, that was fair. And like, it's just funny because like obviously they weren't on the same page, and TK's just like, what? And then like that's how that scene ends. But luckily we get this very quickly, because then after they talk about it, well, Carlos kind of avoids it. He's just like asking TK like, oh, so like who's your leading contender and stuff, like. And Carlos was just like, well, my vote was for Amethyst until she started talking about how I have a blue aura. Everyone knows it's emerald green. And this is when I was like, emerald green, earthy toads. Okay, Virgo vibes. EJ can confirm.
Yes, I was getting that too.
I thought you might.
So that's the reference.
Yes,
I was lost on that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew EJ would get it because we're both Virgos, so of course. And like, I just get so much of that off of him, which I didn't until like last season when like they mentioned so many things that I was like, okay. And also everyone was commenting about like green match TK's eyes, and I'm like, that's cute.
And that is really cute.
Yeah. And then like TK says to Carlos, like, are we seriously not going to talk about this? And Carlos is just like, talk about what? And TK's just like the gaping chasm that just opened up between us. And Carlos is just like, there's no gaping chasm between us. And then TK is just like to Carlos, like, since when do you not want to have kids? And Carlos is just like, since when did I ever say I did? And Tiki's like,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I guess I just assumed. And Carlos says, like, you also assumed I didn't have a wife, and he winks and smirks at TK, and I'm just like, okay, that hasn't got old yet. Like, I still think it's pretty funny.
Funny, honestly, because
It's so funny. It's
to be fair, Carlos, that's not something you generally ask someone you're dating. You just assume.
You would just assume. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and TK's just like, you're so funny. And he's just like, how have we never had this conversation? And Carlos says, I don't know. It's just not something I've been thinking about. Plus, we've been busy working, trying to have a little fun when we're not in comas and being adopted. And I just, I love when they just bring up just like those things. I don't know. I just do.
Casually out of the blue, just out of pocket.
Yeah, pretty much.
Happened. We're screwed.
And TK's just like, well, like, yeah, but you love kids, Carlos. And Carlos is just like, yeah, other people's kids.
I know so many people who don't want kids. That's exactly what they say. That I'm like,
I know.
That sounds familiar.
You can send them home.
Right. Agreed.
Even I who do want kids one day, I'm like, oh, there is something about just being able to give them back.
Exactly.
And not having to worry about it.
Yeah, and Tiki's like, okay, well, what about your nephews and nieces and Captain Vega's twins and baby Charlie? Okay, I love the fact of nieces and nephews being brought up.
Oh my god.
Because it's like,
I need Uncle Carlos now, please.
I know. Oh my god, imagine the kids at the wedding.
And it's also making me think that he's definitely the baby because he seems young enough that his
and nephews.
Yeah, his sisters are older.
Oh, for sure. Which he gives so much baby vibes, knowing that he has sisters.
So many,
because the way his parents act with him just seems that way.
He's absolutely mama's boy and also like big boy.
Oh yeah, and Carlos is like all other people's kids, and Tiki's like, yeah, but you're so great with them. And Carlos is like, thank you. I'm also really good with horses, which is something you probably didn't know. Okay, why are they trying to like fit in everything about Rafa and Carlos? I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just funny. And Carlos is just like, I just want to have a chance for, for us to be us. There's so many things I still want to do with you. I want to like hike the Great Wall with you. I want to sleep in Tuscany with you. And TK's like, babe, you don't even hike here and you hate sleeping in. Carlos is just like, yeah, but we still haven't been to New York together. And TK is just like, they do allow you to bring children into New York. And
Carlos, stop deflecting, please.
Right.
That is literally what he's doing.
He is, sure. And he's so good at it. I mean, I get it.
It's the cow eyes.
Carlos cow. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Carlos is just like, well, he says how he just doesn't think they're anywhere close to being ready for that level of responsibility. Like, we've never had a pet. And TK's just looking at him like, are you kidding me? And TK's like, Lou. And Carlos is like, Lou. And
TK's like, forgotten about
Lou.
He blocked Lou out, okay?
Trauma.
Out.
Trauma of like that lizard escaping. And Carlos even says like, oh, the lizard that escaped 5 minutes after you brought it into this house and that we released back in the wild. And Tiki's like, so you think I'm gonna be a terrible father? Which maybe
you'll be a great father, okay?
Amen. He's gonna be an awesome dad.
And Carlos says how like I never said that, and Tika's like, and Carlos is like, but what I do think is you're gonna make a fantastic husband, and they kiss, and it was so sweet.
Like deflection again, but that is beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, I get both sides of it,
I do
and
too.
I understand.
Absolutely.
Like, we don't know Carlos's reasoning at this point, but like I get it, and like it's. Honestly, like things have changed so much, and like I think it's so hard being a parent these days. And like the one thing that really hit it for me was like there's so many like today there's like so many like school like shootings like every single day everywhere, like that it's just I think it's hard to even think about that and thinking about raising a child, like there's so many bad things that happen. I get there's also great things that happen, but like that's one thing that really hits me personally that I'm like, oh my God, like I couldn't even imagine. And like there's also so many other things, and like I get it.
Definitely, even speaking as someone who wants kids, like I agree with those. I even have my own doubts sometimes. Like I love kids, but do I love them enough to put them here?
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Also, I will say in my generation, I've noticed a huge decrease in kids wanting kids simply for the fact that we're realizing the trauma we've had to go through, like the trauma our parents have put us through, trauma the world is putting us through, and we're like, why the hell do we want to put a child here? And I absolutely see every side. I'm never going to fault someone for wanting kids or not wanting them. So like it's both valid. It's just the hard thing is that it's often hard to make work between two people of a differing view on that.
Right.
Which obviously Carlos is in game. We know this, but it is very real that is not often or sometimes isn't an issue that can be moved past.
Yeah, I agree. I also see both sides. I see, TK is definitely going to be a great dad, and I have no doubt that in the future Carlos and TK are going to be dads. But I also feel like, even not having seen the rest of the episode, at this scene I was like, okay, I get why. Carlos has had enough. Like, he's had a lot go on, and there's been a lot of stuff that's happened between him and TK, injuries, comas, abductions, all sorts of stuff, plus family drama. And as far as we know, he hasn't really had a relationship with his dad for his whole life. So I'm not surprised that he doesn't think he's maybe wants kids, to bring kids in the world, be a dad, because he, much like, I'm not going to say how old I am. I have some chronic illnesses that could cause me to not be able to have children. And at my age, it's very high risk right now. So the chance of me having biological children is getting less. But I'm kind of enjoying being an auntie and letting the kids go back home to mom and dad, or leaving the house and leaving mom and dad to the house, with the kids. But, I'm loving the experience I'm getting with my, pseudo nieces and nephews. So I don't think that TK and Carlos are ever going to be left out. And there's a lot of the people that choose not to have children because of their lifestyle, their work, jobs. TK and Carlos are both in dangerous jobs.
And I think that's not talked about here. And I was about to bring that up, so I'm glad you did. Yeah. Especially today, it's really dangerous.
It's dangerous. And, thankfully firefighters and paramedics are less on that scale, but police officers are definitely in a position that they may not come home that night. Not to say that firefighters are any less dangerous. Their jobs are severely
But the
dangerous.
fatality numbers are a lot less. And I say this as a future firefighter. Like, we have more long-term risks, such as cancer, but we may have fatalities. It's not nearly the same rate, as far as I can tell, as police officers.
Yeah. And we'll definitely talk more later on in this episode as we talk about more of the scenes that come up with it. So we can continue on, I think it's definitely more that we have to talk about.
For sure. Then we get our first call, which I gotta be honest, I wasn't really a fan of the calls in this episode. I thought they were kind of stupid. Like, I'm just gonna put it out there.
I feel like they were intentionally stupid, though, to put it in there without
they weren't interesting at all. Like, they were just like, why is this happening, kind of thing.
Right.
So the Geralds are back. Boo.
Oh God.
Boo, but this was satisfying.
It was satisfying, but I was like, this is so stupid. Because why are they back? But anyways, so they're buying some fancy car or whatever, and then of course they're speed driving it against another car on the road, as dumb people do. And then they're
people about GoFundMe money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh God.
Then of course they crash, and manure falls on their car, which is instant karma, as they deserve.
Literal and deep shit.
Yeah. Yep, good one. And so they 126 gets there, and I just love Marjan being so excited and so hyped and be like, oh my God, you see who it is? And stuff. And so it's the Geralds, and you're like, are you kidding me? But okay, let's see how this what's going on. And I love how they're just messing with them on the call, like, oh, we could do this, but are we gonna do this? Is it necessary? Oh, but we could. Like, I just love how everyone's like in on it too. They're just like, oh yeah, but like as they should. And then like I love Marjan just going on live, like, hey, it's Firefox, and she's blasting them as she should. And yeah, I'm just like, third time. Why do please never let them come back again. Please.
Yeah, we
Thank
don't
you.
need them. Yeah. I was really disappointed actually with how it happened. Not that they had any right to act, the way they did, but like I feel like Marjan went a hair too far with the whole like going Instagram live to talk about it, because I feel like you're on a call. That's kind of like almost a HIPAA violation right there. Like maybe afterwards, after they were rescued, but like it's basically holding care up for something. I don't know. I was a little about that. I get why in the moment it was done and like what they were trying to point out with karma's a bitch kind of stuff. But I was a little surprised that they went that far.
No, I agreed. I was dubious about the things that were done. Like everything I have, not just Marjan's call, but like the way they went about things. I'm like, honestly, at that point, just call in a different unit because of conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Like obviously they weren't going to just leave them there, but I was like, no, that's not right. Like I hate them and they deserve it, but still.
Agreed. Yeah, totally. Like I fully agree that they, were in shit for a reason. Like it's totally karma. Like I totally agree, but maybe wait until after you've rescued them, or exactly like called in another house because of conflict of interest regarding the patients. I don't know.
Yeah. Granted, when she was on Instagram Live, they were already like standing out. It wasn't like they were still like under all that crap.
That would have been terrible, but
like I would have felt worse about it. But honestly, like they got what was coming to them.
But I'm glad she called them out for them using a good chunk of their GoFundMe money for a sports car that is literally
that's why like I'm okay with it. That's why I'm like, oh, they got what's coming to them, because like they should be called out for scamming probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that was deserved. Like that's what you get for being like greedy people.
Right.
Then we go back to the 126 and Tommy is talking to her girls, and TK's just in the ambulance like behind her, and she's like quizzing them on different capitals and stuff, and like all like the Northeast ones, and then they get to New York and they're like, oh, it's New York, and this is what I'm like, I'm like, oh dear. And then she's like, oh, I know it seems that way, but it's actually not. And they're like playing her and like, no, it's Albany. And then TK, after she got the call, was like, I kind of agree, it should be New York. And I'm like, I disagree, TK. I'm sorry, but like as a New Yorker, I disagree, because there is more to New York than New York. New York City, like, I don't know, people have very strong opinions on that. New Yorkers have strong opinions, and I disagree.
I hear you. I'm the same way. Here in Washington, everybody assumes that Seattle is the capital of the state. It's not, and there's more to the state than just Seattle.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because like it's honestly so annoying, especially when people like when people from upstate, which is where I'm from, when people people that aren't even from New York State assume that you live in New York City, and I'm like, nope, that's 6 hours.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. That's just that. But then like TK like is talking to Tommy about like, oh, like, have you always wanted to know you wanted to be a mom? And she's like, ever since I was like little. And then like they're talking, and like she's talking about how it wasn't easy because he was like asking her about it. And I'm just like, I love TK talking to like his like, I guess like, his chosen mom, like a mom figure.
Yeah, work mom, so to speak.
Work mom, yeah, exactly. Right. I love it. It's just like, it was such a good talk, and I feel like he needed that, because like it's very clear in the scene this is like something TK very much wants,
right?
And so if you can tell how much he lights up, and I'm just like, oh.
And I'm glad he had Tommy there to ask. And I'm glad she
Right.
shared what she did with him, because I feel like it could have been easily gone a different way, just, depending on how much she wanted to share. But she shared what she did, and was like, okay, that's what TK needed to hear. Not that.
I love that she didn't ask too much about why he was asking. Like, she just totally just went along with it. I loved that.
Yeah. He probably has obviously she doesn't know everything, but she probably has some idea of why, not exactly why he's asking, but an idea of that he's probably thinking through things and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get Marjan at physical therapy, and Paul's there supporting her, which besties being besties, yes.
I miss their bestie ship. I feel like it's been a while since we've really, really seen it, and I love it.
I know, it feels like a while, at least solely. And I love Natasha's boyfriend playing her physical therapist. It's so good.
When I saw that was the thing, I was like, hell yeah.
I know, same. And I just love how when the session's over and he walks away and Paul's just like, you were flirting. And Marjan's like, we were not, and stuff. And then Marjan sees her picture, whatever, blow up. And then she sees that her ex had a baby. And I'm just like, oh boy. I knew this was coming, but I also was like, God damn.
Fuck Salim. All my homies hate Salim.
Right.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. Because, it was just I kind of forgot that he was quote unquote cheating on her, because he had a girl at home. It was his dental hygienist or something. I can't remember all the details, nor do I care to remember all the details on a man that Lily saw for 5 seconds practically. Yeah, that was something. But then that continues because they're talking about it at the 126. And Marjan keeps looking at the picture of the baby, and everyone's like, it's not even a cute baby. It's not even that. It's not even cute. And we love them for it. And then, she's totally looking at it and being definitely dwelling on it. I mean, Paul does what any best friend should do, and he comes over and he takes her phone and he tells her that she should have stopped following Salim a long time ago on socials, and tells her that she needs to stop moping. And Paul's like, this is universe telling you that you should get back out there. And Marshall's just like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. And Paul's like, you broke up 2 years ago. And
to be fair, she'd also been married, not married, but engaged to this man.
Right.
For many years.
Yeah, which was so freaking random when that came up. I still think that is the most random thing ever.
The only thing random about it, it's literally just random because it wasn't mentioned before.
Pretty much. Yeah. It was just how casually it was.
It's not done. But just not done.
It was just, I don't know, it was a little random. Right. And Marjan's just saying how dating for her is a whole thing, and she's actually never done it before, and the guy would have to be Muslim. He there would have to be a chaperone. And I love seeing this because I've always wanted to see what dating was for her, because obviously everyone especially every everyone in different cultures dates differently. Doesn't mean all Muslim women date how Marjan chooses to date. It's definitely different for everyone. So I liked seeing it for her. And I liked the support of the 126, because I love TK asking a professional chaperone, and Marjan's well, it's a father, cousin, and TK's so family, and she's yeah, and I don't have that here. All my family's in Miami. And I love Owen just walking at the right time being nice try, Marjan, you got a house full of family right here.
Yes.
And so she agrees after they kind of pester her for a minute to get back out there. And I love them helping her, because we got so much. We got Nancy and Marjan, we got Carlos and Marjan talking about it, Paul, Owen, and Marjan. And then we get to the dates.
Oh god.
Oh my gosh.
It was interesting for sure. So it's Marjan, Paul, and this dude, and she's profusely sweating, and he's just you're hot, and she's just thanks. And he's no, you're sweating. And then she starts word vomiting about her dating life, and I'm just
it happens, girl, it's fine.
Yeah. And then I love TK giving her advice and saying, sometimes you just have to insert a comfort nerd, so that way when you're ready for the real thing, you got that. And Marjan's just like, what does that even look like? And honestly, I liked this guy. I did like him until that one thing. So that one thing came up where it was like, seriously. So like, yeah, and I love that Tarlos is on this date. It was so cute. I was
it's like a double date, but them as chaperones.
I loved it because when they mentioned like chaperone dates, I was like, okay, we better see Carlos on one of these.
Yes.
I was so happy. And then I love and then there was the dude with Mateo and Nancy and Marjan, which was that dude.
Oh my gosh. For one thing, Mateo, shush.
I know. Mateo was like more into the guy that she was.
Seriously, like you guys could date. Bye-bye.
I'm not gonna lie, I would like that more than
Nancy.
I would like that more than Nancy and Mateo. To be honest, I would rather watch that. And then we had the dude that was that on the side he like did stuff with dog rescues, and this is the date Owen was on. And so the one dude that told her that they were talking about kids, and he said he wanted 8, and then he starts telling her that she's not a spring chicken, and I'm like, you don't ever say that to a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, red flag. Nope,
right.
You do not do that. I liked him until he started asking her what house she was in, and she was like, huh? And he was like, Harry Potter, and she was like, oh, I'm not into that. And he was like, oh, well, this isn't gonna work. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
Like, as a little bit of a nerd, I get it, but at the same time, damn,
that's like too much.
Yeah,
that's like a little much. Like, I would never be like, you don't want Children's Star? Oh my god, we cannot date. I would just get you into it. I would make you watch it.
There's that.
Yeah, that's me. I would do that.
I would be like, okay, this is gonna work, but I'm gonna force you to watch it to get your pretty well. But then she ends up liking the guy that was like the dog rescue dude. And I don't know. He wasn't my first pick.
No, he did seem like he had a lot of elements that would.
He was too good
for her.
That's what I mean. He was way too good. I was like, there has to be a something. There has to be a but to the situation.
Yeah.
Because I was like, when you show somebody that literally volunteers and like devotes their time to like getting dogs adopted, I'm like, okay, there's people that definitely do that, and they're like literally like the kindest souls. But there's also the people that like do that, and you're like, okay, there has to be a red flag somewhere.
And boy, was there.
What I really liked about this kind of series of talking to the firehouse to actually getting the advice to going on these dates, I like the support, and I like that her friends and family were considering and supporting her choice in how to date, and also showing how a Muslim woman might choose to date or have to date, because it's not seen that often. And I really like that. I really like to show, and I've talked with friends who are of that faith, and it can be very draining. And, sometimes you're sitting across the table from them and the men are having a conversation. Like, you could be on a date with your father and the guy you're possibly going to date, and the guys talk like it's very one-sided sometimes. And so I'm really glad that they didn't have that, but that they at least showed what it was like, and showed that it was different than how Paul's been dating and TK and Carlos started dating and things like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. Like, I've been wanting her to date since probably like season 2. So I was very, very happy about this. But then we see her probably like the next morning or like a couple of days later moping, and Paul and TK walk in and they're talking. And Paul's like talking about how he's ordained online. And I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, Paul can officially. Okay, I was a little like, people had been talking about this last week. And I was like, okay, I want somebody to like literally from the 126 to do it. And people were like, oh my God, Owen. And I'm like, okay, don't get me wrong, but I would no. Please no. Please don't let that happen.
He's the father of one of the grooms. No.
Not to mention, like, Owen is just. Like, I like Owen, don't get me wrong, but like, he would just try to make it about him, and like,
he automatically steals the show. He's just
that's what I mean. He would, yeah. Like, we don't want that.
Bad, right. Not saying anything bad, but like, it's supposed to be about TK and Carlos.
Exactly.
somehow, even as hard as he would just somehow have it be about him. So yeah, no.
Like
I
if I
love
were to pick, I would pick either Paul or Judd. I feel like they would be the best, but I want Paul.
Judd probably would be my first favorite, pick, honestly.
I wrote that in a fanfic, literally 3 years ago. So I would be a supporter of that.
Yeah, no,
but
I agree.
I want Paul. Now that they brought it up, I'm like, okay, obviously they brought this up for a reason, so I hope it happens. Please do not disappoint.
Right.
So I love that. And then Marjan's freaking out because she hasn't gotten a text back, and everyone's like, girl, chill. It hasn't been that long. And they're kind of being like, no, you can't do this. You can't text him. He'll think you're, I don't know, think you're desperate or something. You gotta just wait. And then she gets a text, and then her whole mood changed. She's just so hyped, and then she walks away. And they're like, oh, yay. They were so happy for her. They were cheering too. It was so sweet. I love this family. I do.
Agreed.
But then we get our other call with the pregnant woman who goes into this motel. She's asking for the room number of her husband, but the dude won't give it to her because he's we'll talk to your husband, because it's their policy that they can't give out somebody's room number, which I get, the privacy.
He's being an asshat, but
he was
good. It's a good policy.
I get it, because you can literally say anybody is your husband,
right,
just to get somebody's room number, especially
even if that person was the actual husband and everything, then they'd have to probably call the police for a disturbance. So
yeah, it wouldn't end well. So I understand that. Obviously, it's in place for a reason, because something probably did happen.
right.
But so then of course she doesn't, and she's heavily pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant too. Let us at. And so obviously she doesn't get her way, so she then sees some construction equipment. So she sees the skid steer, and so she takes that and rams it into the building. And I'm like, oh boy, here we are.
At this moment is when I realized it's probably the guy that Marjan likes. I was the writer brain in me was there's a connection here. And I was
oh yeah, I didn't quite put it together.
I didn't either. But I never think about things when I'm watching it, especially since I'm watching it live. So I'm literally not thinking about it at all, which I like. It's good. But yeah, so then the 126 are there, and then I love when Carlos is on calls, because he's oh, this happened, and it's just we get to see Carlos doing his job, which
yeah, he's so thorough and such a good cop.
I know. And so then they go in and stuff, and she doesn't want to get out. She's oh, I'm gonna go to jail. And then Marjan's well, no, judge, especially in Texas, would lock up a pregnant woman when her husband was cheating on her, basically.
I don't know if that's true, but
I don't buy that.
Well, here's the thing: if it was a thing she wrecked his car or something like that, probably not. She just destroyed the lower floor of a hotel. That no longer is just between the couple. So I don't necessarily know if she would go to prison, or if they knock it down to a heavy fine and community service or whatever. But she's definitely paying some sort of price for that.
I feel they would just make her do community service, being that she's 7 months pregnant. Because okay, if somebody died, she'd definitely be going, but
but it doesn't even seem really anyone was injured except herself. So that would probably be a saving grace.
Probably be vandalism and among other things.
Yeah, they probably just make her do community service or something. Especially since it seems this is a rash thing, and it was probably her first offense. So they'd probably be pretty light on her, given all the circumstances. And of course, yep, the husband is the dude that Marjan had went on a date on, the guy that rescues the dogs. And you're of course, he was too perfect, and I knew he was too perfect, but I couldn't figure it out and stuff. And I was of course. And Owen was I'm so disappointed, because Owen liked him too.
He was invested.
They were all invested,
right?
Honestly, same. I was of course that would happen. And like, I don't know. That was like it was interesting, but this was like, I don't know. I guess it was sort of anticlimactic because since like literally nothing happened besides her ramming it and like that was pretty much it. But whatever, moving on.
Right.
So then I love this like scene because TK goes to see Owen, and
I
in the
love this
middle of it we see Carlos and his mom talking. We see Mama Reyes.
Yay, more Andrea.
We love her. I stand that woman. So yeah, Owen's just like so surprised to see TK. And then I love when TK walks in like the kitchen. He's like, is that fried chicken? And like it's funny because like my friends and I were like online the other day, we were talking about it, and one of my friends is like, okay, but why did Owen have fried chicken? Like, Owen, health nut, like wouldn't eat a taco. Like I was like, guys, he wouldn't even eat a taco a couple episodes ago because he's getting ready for the wedding. Like, what the heck? He's eating fried chicken? Like, okay. And it's just funny because when you look at it, it's like clearly KFC, but like obviously you have to take all the logo off, but like it's obvious what it is. You can tell. And it's just funnier.
Yeah.
Like that just makes
I'm
it
like-
so much funnier.
I'm like, so he's binging because he's disappointed that guy was not who he said he was. It's like,
Honestly, I love how like he is just kind of being like mama hen over his like
right.
chicks at the firehouse, and it's like,
Yeah.
trying to match make, trying to get this be the season of love, but this guy is a dick.
Oh my god, yes. And like, I don't know, there's just so many things about the scene that were funny and stuff. And like, it was just so funny. It was so much, but it was like so funny. And then like, he's just like, well, it's disappointing when they drop the spouse pal menu, and Owen's like, I forgot. Well, at least Carlos's divorce says, okay, we finally got like a clear like picture, because we had been talking last week. Oh, can they like, or actually it might have been the week before that. I think it was the week before that, but either way, we were talking about it recently about like, can we like actually verbally tell us, like, rather than just hinting. And like TK's like, well, I know, but yes. Which, yay, we have that. So love that. And then TK's like, but the kids question, Owen's like, wait, he has a kid? And TK's like, no, but I just found out he never wants to. And Owen's just like, sounds like you could use some chicken.
I love Owen.
Yeah, same.
Like, Owen's top tier dad, like, to me at this.
Yeah, and like TK says, like, like this scares him because what if, like, what does it say about them that they've never discussed this? And then Carlos, meanwhile, talking to his mom, Carlos is like they're talking, which I love. And Andrea says, like, you avoided this conversation on purpose, which he's such an avoider, which I get. But Carlos is like avoid it. I don't avoid it. I'm like, yes, you do, baby.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do, boy. You avoid so hard. Like the wife. Now this.
Right.
Yeah, you're a seasoned member of avoiding. You're like an elite member of that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I get it. I might be in that club too.
Yeah. And I liked Andrea calling him out.
Yes, I love that. Like she is good at that, and I love her for that. And she's like, I think you didn't ask TK about kids because you knew his answer. You knew exactly what it was going to be. And Carlos says how like they're in a good place and how they've been really busy, and Andrea is just like, for 3 years, Carlitos. And she says how he's gonna have to do better than that. And Owen's like, TK, like, people get busy, it's a thing. And TK's like, yeah, but not too busy to have a conversation so foundational and that's not what healthy couples do. I mean, I don't know. I feel like their conversations are pretty healthy. Like, I feel like it's natural to forget about some things and be like, oh yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Right.
Like, oh, this just came up. Like, it's not super random. Like, it happens.
Yeah, and I understand where Andrea was calling him out on avoiding, but I also feel like I get where Carlos is coming from. Him and TK are in a good spot. they're healthy, happy, not abducted, not in a coma, not on the rocks because of some stupid decision one or both of them did or made. They're not dealing with, the annulment and the whole ex-wife thing. In a good spot, and I can see that Carlos is happy right now, and he's afraid of any change. And Carlos, being a control freak, might have a little bit of an issue of having to share TK with a child.
Possibly. I mean, I don't see that as much. Like, I feel like it's different.
I've never gotten the feeling like he really, like, obviously there was the little bit with, like, what was this fucking name? Cooper? His sponsor or whatever? There was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, not my dog. Just kidding. I knew what you were talking about.
We love your Coop. But, like, I feel like generally, especially since he theoretically already has to share him with so many people, I'm not sure that'd be an issue, but
I don't
like, definitely there's some people.
Like, that's your, I don't know. I feel like kids are different just because, like, are you really going to be jealous over literally a child? No.
Yeah, well, maybe
listen, I'm on Reddit and I have seen so many things along these lines, but
people
also
are crazy.
Reddit is that shit, and life goes there to die. Anyway.
Yeah, but I guess maybe not jealous, but more of a.
I know what you mean. I knew you didn't be jealous.
I just
like somewhere in that wording, you guys get it.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Your life changes when you have kids. You go from being a couple to having a third person to take care of, and it
throws things off. You can't always do the things that you used to do. I understand.
Right.
Yeah. And I loved Owen's comment because Owen's like, your mother and I never discussed what religion you were going, like, we were going to read you as until I overheard her scheduling your briefs in the delivery room. Needless to say, a very animated conversation ensued.
And and those are done on the 8th day of life for boys.
I've never heard it called that before, so I'm not gonna lie, I had to Google what that meant.
Yeah, it's the Jewish term for a bris. It's basically a party celebration of circumcision, and it's done 8 days when the baby's 8 days old. It's so like really, you celebrate this?
I know, that's kind of, I don't know, not to say it's weird, but like it kind of is.
It's an interesting culture thing, and certainly a thing to have thrust upon you at the delivery room. Very close to
yeah, and then I love, like,
interesting.
Yeah, pretty much. And then TK's like, you don't think it's because I'm an addict, like he's worried I'll relapse. And then Andrea's just like saying how, like, maybe that's what's really bothering you. And Carlos says how he believes in TK's recovery with his whole heart, which we love to support a fiance.
Yes.
And then Owen's like, is that what he said the reason was? And TK's like, he said it's because he wants them to travel the world. And this is when I hear Andrea laugh. And she's like, and Carlos is like, what? And she's like, and Carlos is just like, well, I've only left the state like twice in my life. And Andrea's like, yeah, and you were kicking and screaming both times. You got homesick after being in a weekend in Branson. And
not far
Carlos
away
is a
from
homeboy.
Yes, he is.
Pretty much. I understand that. I get that.
Yeah.
Like, I love traveling places, but like I also like being at home. I understand it completely. And then Andrea asks him to tell her what's really bothering Carlos, and Carlos is like, obviously I don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, which I was like, oh god, what is he gonna say? And then Andrea's like, is that what you're worried about? That, like, the child, like, about the mother, like, it's not gonna have a mother, and because, like, me and your sisters are here for you, which, and Carlos is just like saying how, like, he knows they are, and he's not worried about who the mother will be. He's worried about who's gonna be the father, and I don't mean TK. And I was just like, oh yeah. And TK's like, I blame you, and Owen's like, me? And TK is like, yeah, because I have such a great father-son relationship with you, and I I wanted to pay it forward. So it's like, it's your fault for being such a good dad that I want to I want to have kids on my own. And Carlos says how like TK and Owen have like a special relationship. And like time he was little, and I didn't start one with my dad until 2 years ago, which that was like, I don't know, it tugged at my heartstrings. So it was like, you don't really think about that because like I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that Gabriel was never like a good dad, because like obviously like he probably was. He would probably just didn't understand some things about Carlos and stuff. And obviously in Carlos's eyes, this is how he sees it, just because of like growing up. But it's like, oh, that makes me a little sad.
Yeah.
And Andrea says like, oh, like that's not true. And Carlos is like afraid he won't measure up, which I get that. Like he does. I get like I get what he means, and it's just like, oh baby, that's not true. And like TK says how like he doesn't want to push him into something he doesn't want. And Carlos asks like, does this make me like compassionate or selfish? And Owen says to TK that he can't answer that, but what he can tell him is, almost every time I put your mother's needs before mine, I ended up being happier than if I would have gotten what I wanted. And TK's like, so you're saying I should give up on my dream? And then Andrea's saying like, no, what I'm saying is you have to be considerate of his feelings just as much as your own, and whatever you decide, you have to be honest with him. And Owen is like, take what the universe gives you. And Andrea's like, because like she says, because no matter what happens, mijo, the most important thing, and Carlos says, is TK's by my side. And then TK's like, Carlos is my person. And it was so sweet. And I loved both their parents like guiding them. And I liked it intertwined because it really like flowed nicely instead of getting two separate scenes of them talking to the parents, because it was definitely needed to get like Owen and TK and Andrea and Carlos.
Right. Yeah, I think it was really good. I think they did a really good job with the editing and putting it together, because I think it balanced each other out well to have that conversation back like together and not separate.
Oh yeah, for sure. It flowed so well together. This whole episode flowed well together, of how like which scenes happen where. It flowed beautifully. And like I loved it, and like I like Carlos's perspective, and like because you'd never really thought of these things, because honestly I never really thought that we would get this, like I didn't think we'd get this outcome, or even if this would even come up. I'm glad we did, because it's like different and like and stuff, and I really like it. Like I don't necessarily think it's a never, because I think when this whole conversation was brought up about the kids, people were freaking out, being like, oh my god, like Carlos hates kids, Carlos doesn't want kids. And I'm just like, guys, chill out. Like we really, and like even in the initial sneak peek there, which was like the second scene, Carlos never said like, he never said like never. He just said, oh, I don't know, like I don't think it, like I'm not ready, like I don't know if I want them, which that's natural. Like everybody, a lot of people do that, like when they're about to get married, everyone. And good thing they're having this conversation now than having this conversation when they're like 2 years married and TK's like, I want a family, and Carlos is just like, yeah, no, I never wanted a family. At least this is before they get married,
right? Because
I've seen that happen in shows where like the people are already married and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I feel like Carlos, this is this is going to be the next few episodes, I bet, are going to have some Carlos working on his stuff, because he's got a lot that he needs to unpack that he has not done. And this is one of those. I really want Gabriel back, because I think he needs to come back.
I think they need to have a conversation.
Yeah. I feel like some more encouragement from Gabriel will help Carlos in that way. And I feel like maybe next season or in the future, TK and Carlos, one of them are going to come across a troubled kid, or a kid that parent passes away in an accident, and they're going to like, somehow they're going to get connected to this kid. And the next thing you know, like they're choosing to adopt the kid. So like, I feel like something like that's going to happen. And I agree. I definitely feel like Carlos and TK are going to be dads. It just might not be right now. And then might be different than what we expect.
Somebody did bring that up. Somebody's like, okay, Carlos is going to come across a kid on a call that like something happens and he's going to get attached and then they're gonna adopt this kid. I'm like, I totally picture that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Theoretically, I think they could both have a very happy, long, and fulfilling life without any kids.
Right.
I feel like as a writer, it is a natural storyline for them to have kids.
Right.
I personally would not be against them exploring like a storyline without kids in it. And I say this only because it'd be an interesting storyline. However, I do think they make great parents, and I totally see like the scenario you guys are talking about coming up. I do think that there's going to be like some sort of dramatic thing to make. There's either going to be some sort of dramatic thing to make Carlos maybe sort through his trauma, or it's going to be like this kind of
as he should.
Carlos, but in his own time. I'm not sure
what Carlos needs to do. He needs to go to therapy. Somebody was saying that the other day. They're like, okay, NOG, they go to therapy like a bit, and they're like, you know what problems we solved on Lone Star? If these people just go to therapy already. And I'm like, you're not wrong. That definitely should happen.
Right.
Because, oh my god, these people have gone through so much trauma. Like, I can't even imagine what 3 comas has done to TK. And we don't even know about coma number 1.
Oh god, yeah.
We thought him getting shot was coma number 1. Apparently not. Apparently that's coma number 2. Oh yeah, but I love the scene. It was so good. Then we get Marjan and Paul at the grocery store and stuff. Apparently they're having like a night in with Paul and Asha. Marjan's kind of third wheeling it, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Exactly. And then so they run into like throughout this they run into Marjan's physical therapist, and you're just like, oh hey. And then like she finds out he's Muslim through like they're talking or whatever, and like that surprises her, and she then like throughout this she invites him to dinner because like we need another wheel, and she's just like like that needs to happen. And then she invites him to dinner, and I just love how she's like, well, I didn't know that about you. It's like, why would you? He's your physical therapist.
Right.
You're not friends.
Like things can come up in conversation that are so random with people you wouldn't expect to have like deep conversations with. And so like I'm a bit surprised if it ever came up between them, but also at the same time, like theoretically, this isn't something that would come up.
Probably not.
Well, and I'm imagining she's close enough to being released from physical therapy that it's not going to be an issue. I don't know. Did we mention it earlier? This is Natasha's real life boyfriend.
Oh yeah, we mentioned it. We mentioned it last week.
I might have missed it, but yeah. So it was cute. I liked the scene, and I liked how it just kind of flowed. She had all these like what she thought was a one good date and some kind of awkward ones, and then this kind of happened naturally. So I liked that. But okay, this is a natural progression of a relationship, and granted, as her therapist, he can't technically date her until they're no longer she's no longer his patient, which I'm hoping is soon.
It looks like they were trying to escalate it towards that.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. People are saying like, oh, I have a feeling. And I'm like, they're going to do this. And I'm like, well, yeah, like it makes sense. They're dating in real life. So obviously they have chemistry. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And also it's really cool. Like it's cool to see.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to what this brings with her for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, for sure. But we end on Tarlos, which
we start and end with Tarlos. I love it.
All the Tarlos.
Good.
So yeah, Carlos comes home and he's holding a box, and you're just like, what the heck? Right. And TK's cooking. He's cooking beef Wellington, which we love to see TK cooking because usually Carlos is cooking, and I feel like this just squashes all the like theories from fans
that TK can't cook.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you can keep that in the fan fiction. Thank you very much. Because point proven. So TK like then he gets wine out for Carlos and says, don't worry, it's not a bribe. Just like every night that we're together is a night to celebrate, which is super cute. And Carlos is like, this isn't a bribe either. And TK's like, what is it? So there's literally a bearded dragon in that box. And Carlos was like terrified. And he's like, I know you're ready to be a father, but and I have no doubt that you would be an amazing one, but I'm not so sure I'm there yet or if I ever will be. And Carlos says how he just wanted to be honest with TK and says how like this might be like our only child together. And TK's like, that's okay. And Carlos is like, it's okay. And TK's like, it's okay. And TK's like, can you just take the yes? And like they kiss and hug, and it was super sweet. And then like Carlos said how they also told him that he likes to eat live crickets, so that's gonna be your job, TK. And TK's just like, well, what should we name the little guy? And Carlos's face is priceless. And Carlos is like, I thought like Lewis or Lou the second. And TK is just like, well, we should ask him. And don't you know, they look in the box and he's gone.
And he's gone.
And not again. Not again.
You just left it open.
Yeah, I don't.
Have we not learned our lesson?
I know.
And Carlos,
Carlos would be me.
I would be totally freaking out, if I'm being honest.
I would just be like, oh no, I'm gonna step on him or he's gonna get stuck behind something.
Yeah. I love Carlos. He's like, he already got out, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's like, this is my life now. Maybe kids aren't that bad.
Yeah, honestly. And so they have to find him. And TK's like, he couldn't have gone far, right? And Carlos's face is just like, what did I do? And he says, oh, I'm never sleeping again. And that's how we end. So it's like, oh my god, did they find him? Imagine they just forget about him. I would literally die. I would die if like literally they forgot about him, that they ever brought this up, and it was like, what?
Somebody have lizard for lunch?
I hate that, thanks.
But I thought that was so cute. And Carlos is never sleeping again. Because when TK, I was telling my roommate, I was like, yeah, when TK woke Carlos up, I was like, do you remember what Carlos said when he kind of was like shocked when he was woken up? And I think I said one of his comments was, is the lizard back? I was like, oh, just PTSD.
I never expected something like this to happen, so it's so funny. Like I was like, oh my god, that shows true love that Carlos literally brings something into his home, into their home that like he literally does not want in his home.
Right. Yeah. And people were saying online that as bearded dragons, I guess that coloring often turn red when they're happy. So
yeah.
I guess that was supposed to be encouraging that he was happy when TK picked him up. And
yeah, I know that like when they're like stressed or when they're sad, their beard turns black.
Oh, okay.
They're interesting creatures, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about them.
Cute.
I've
nothing about them, but they're so cute.
Yeah, they kind of are. I love this episode though. It was so good. Like,
oh yeah, everything slapped. I mean, the emergencies were
meh, but if you take those out, like so top tier.
Like it could have taken relief in the emergencies. Except for like maybe one or two elements of them both. And by that I mean getting the comeuppance on the Gerald, simply seeing them deep in shit. And obviously finding out the thing about the guy Marjan liked. Like even like the emergencies just don't stay on the radar. I just love everything else about the episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love the episode. It was great. This one was definitely more character building and character heavy instead of the emergencies, which I'm kind of glad for.
Oh yeah, I love episodes like that.
Yeah, like we don't always have to have these major emergencies. Like sometimes it's really nice to get to know more of the behind the scenes and off work type of people and like their lives and stuff. So this was really good. I thought they balanced it well, especially because I think last episode we had quite a bit of calls and things. So it definitely was a good balance. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously I love all the Tarlo stuff. I'm happy for Marjan. I hope this relationship with her therapist maybe pursues something. And yeah, so it's good writing.
Yeah, it's just funny because when I was like on live with my friend the other day, somebody was like, she's dating her therapist. Okay, Buck. And I'm like, okay, that is a different therapist. This is different. Yeah. Right? I was like, that is not the same thing.
And they also didn't have sex in the office either.
That too. That's what I said. I was like, this is not as bad. Also, they haven't gone anywhere yet. So Okay.
Right.
Shall we go on to fan thoughts?
Yes.
So somebody suggested on Discord that we add like a predictions part. So I added that upon the suggestion. Nobody has to contribute to that. I didn't make it like required or anything because like obviously not everyone has predictions, but I thought it was a good idea. And I'll add it like every week. Because I know we did last season, but I think we just did it for like the finale and probably the premieres or any of the big episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Nice.
So, cried when Carlos brought home the bearded dragon. Loved the lizard. Was hilarious. And then TK called Carlos his person. I know, that was so sweet.
Yeah.
Favorite episode of the new season. I thought the episode was perfect. I love seeing more of TK and Marjan's respective cultures. I thought the kids' conversation was handled super well, and I'm glad that neither TK nor Carlos's feelings were invalidated. I liked seeing this different side of Marjan in the dating world, and I'm happy that she got the last laugh. And then the prediction, there's only one, but this is interesting. Someone intentionally hurt Kendra's husband, maybe Kendra herself. I hope Owen and her break up. I think we all feel that way. I think Grace's dad is going to be okay. The truth is going to come out about Grace's family, and we find a way to forgive him, even though he doesn't deserve it. We'll get to once we get to the promo and stuff. But that was good stuff.
Oh my god, I just looked up bearded dragon because I literally know nothing about them, and on Amazon there's a little harness that has wings on it for a bearded dragon.
Oh my god, I want it.
So cute.
I want a bearded dragon, and I want the harness simply for the sake of having that.
I was like, oh my gosh. There's apparently you can find anything on Amazon. Okay, side note, sorry.
No, that's funny. No, I follow a family and they have one, and for Christmas they get there's like a literally a Santa hat. Like, it's so funny.
Oh.
But yeah, let's talk about the promo. Honestly, not impressed. Another week of literally me like being like, what the hell? Honestly, when I saw this promo, I was like, I hate this. But basically, some guy walks in on Kendra and Owen, and no one assumes it's her brother, but it's her husband. And so apparently she's in an open marriage, and then later her husband gets stuck in like one of those cryo machines, which they would have one of those in her house, and it's frozen solid. So now they have to save him. Like, Owen starts doing compressions on him. And personally, I do not care about anything that was in this episode, like this promo for this episode. Like, I don't care. Like, I feel very strongly about this, but I'm literally starting to hate like all the storylines they're doing to Owen, where I'm personally having conflicting feelings, and it's not his fault. It's the writer's fault, because they're literally I'm sort of hating it like so much, and I'm just like, why are you making me hate Owen when I was never like this? But I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, all of his storylines have been most of them have been so stupid, and I hate this. Like, get rid of Kendra. I don't like her. She's like, I don't like this. Like, it's so stupid. Like, bring back somebody else, or just have him be single. Right. Honestly, I'm here for
have him be single,
because I can't take any more of this, to be honest. Like, I hate this so much. And like, you know, Grace's family is supposed to be in this episode, like literally her sisters, like her real life sisters, China and Lauren, are literally guest starring in this episode as her sisters. Like, that news came out this week, which people have been speculating that for a month, and I was like, okay, I can finally confirm this,
right? Which is cool,
because like people have been sharing it like just everywhere, and like I know people threw it around Discord, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna say this is happening, because like it literally hasn't been confirmed. And I even know Sierra was like, yeah, you guys knew about this.
Yeah. And a few times when Sierra, I've seen her on the show, she's wearing the 3 ring, the I ring that her and her sister share. that they have. So I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna bring that in, because I thought that would be really cool. Like that's because it's a sister's her and two sisters, so it's the three of them.
Right. And I know, like, I read the article came out with Sierra talking about this week, and she had said that she had been wanting this to do this since like early like season 1. Like she wanted like the storyline to come up, and like she said this season her and Tim talked and said like they were basically on the same page of like, yeah, we want like your actual sisters to like guest star, and like we wanted to bring this up, and I think that's really like that's perfect.
Yeah,
like I'm excited for that storyline, and that's pretty much it for this episode. Like all the other stuff, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I already know I'm gonna hate it.
Here's the thing: it's not about the open marriage bit. I just don't like. I don't judge anyone for having an open marriage, an open relationship. If you can make it work, good for you. Many people can't. It's the fact that he was not made aware of this.
That too.
Yeah.
That's part of consent. He cannot consent to this situation.
Right.
There is a huge issue in consent. There is no communication. What the hell is going on? These people are like 40 to 50 years old. Have they not figured this shit out by now?
Yeah, like anytime open marriages, like EJ's gonna get this, because in the night shift, in I forget what season it was, but Jordan was dating. Well, she went on a date with a guy, and then he told her that he was in an open marriage, and she was like, "Yeah, not for me." Like if that had been the same situation,
right? I remember that. Oh my God.
Yeah, I knew you would. I would. It would have been okay.
Yeah, I thought so. Scott had just broken up.
I thought so. Yeah, that would have been okay if it was similar situation to that, but like he was literally blindsided, and I can't blame him for that. I just think it's so stupid.
Owen, walk out that door right now.
He better.
Yeah,
I'm gonna really hate him if he does it. I'm sorry, but I am
for sure.
Like, and we all know he's not going to. The thing he would.
It's over.
Or maybe he's wrestling with himself. He's guilting himself. I don't know. I don't blame Owen for any of it. I just am like, get yourself out of this situation. If they are still together outside of this episode, I'm going to be pissed off.
Right.
Yeah. And he had Catherine was good. I'm not saying that I was expecting her to come back this season, but I was like hoping for something.
She's the best one yet.
She was the best one. Like she was good for him. Like she really grounded him, I thought.
Yeah, she did. Like I know she technically got a job in New York or something, or California. I don't know.
I think it was DC, I thought.
DC? Oh, you know what? I think it was DC. Ironic because I'm close.
Somebody confirm this, because I know you guys always confirm things on Discord. You're like, wait, it was this. Which I appreciate, because sometimes I'm like, wait, was it that? But I'm like, eh.
I have it in my head it was either DC or New York.
Yeah, I'm 98% sure it was DC.
It would make sense as a politician, but like
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
But yeah. And Ronan is already teasing another Tarlos heavy episode, which we love him for it.
Yay.
You just deliver.
Thank you. Because like I always post everything, and everyone's like, yeah, but was this scene cut? I'm like, you do realize that literally we still have a bit more episodes, so that I'm sure things will come up.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to whatever episode that is, because I'm sure there's so much more to come up. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. They're only pictures, but I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yes, I'm liking all the Tarlos.
Always.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course, everywhere else where you can get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and TikTok. Just to join our Discord server, the link will be in the description of this podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys follow me, Katie, at ForLoveTarlos on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanMathlin911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.